I've been using the Craftsman Tradestack now for more than 6 months. There's some good things, there's some bad things. Let's talk about all of them, and I'll show you everything that is going on and what I'm doing to fix it. So first off, let's talk about how I use it most of the time. On the top, I've got 2 of the Craftsman sets. This one happens to be, bits and drill bits and such. Right below that, I've got a 1/4 and 3/8 socket set. I've got a Versa stack on the adapter plate to the Tradestack. The Tradestack, this one originally came with the bottom box, this little mid box, and that crate there. We'll get to that in a minute. So this is the mid box, the little mid box, and I've added a 2-drawer system here. The bottom box came with it. That's got the roll around wheel base, the handles, the things that allow you to hold it to the wall so that way it doesn't roll away if you're in a van or something. But this is how I use it most of the time. Let's talk about things now. Right off the bat, I've got 2 things wrong. First up, this bottom drawer oftentimes gets hung up on the box below and it doesn't just slide into place, even though it has nice sliders on the drawer. The second thing, this latch doesn't seem to want to relatch so nice. I think it may have to do with how much weight I have on top of it, but even when there's no weight on top of it and it's just this box, that latch has a very hard time latching and it's kind of crunchy, not so good. So those are the 2 major flaws that I've got with it right now. But what about that crate? That's one of those things that's nice to throw things in and take with you, right? Well, that right there is the problem. The crate, as it is, I tend to throw things in it and not put it away. But I think that's going to be the case with anything that's an open top. Stuff just gets tossed in and you tend to forget about it. So most of the time, I've just got my camera gear in there just to keep it from collecting random parts and stuff. Keeping in mind, this is a mobile tool storage solution, right there with the Milwaukee Pack Out and all the other ones that are out there in the market. The other thing that I have, the Versa stack drawers are pretty narrow. I've got screwdrivers in the top one, and this is a pretty good assortment for me. I've even got some Torx, little tiny Torx, other Torx, and I've even got my feeler gauges because I didn't know where else to put them. So the problem is that since it's not very tall, if a screwdriver gets out of joint, it doesn't slide in so great. Second thing, pliers. What I really need is another box like that 2-drawer down there, but this is what I've got. It's also a little short, so I have to be very careful about how I organize things so they sit flat. But still, I've got a pretty good assortment of every tool I need, pliers-wise. Now, the good about these kind of organizers is there's room. You may have a couple of small screws that get used. You toss them in there. An extra bit or 2 may find their way into this. That's not a bad thing. It actually works out pretty good. I've got room for an automatic center punch just hanging out in there, something that's just nice to have. So beauty of this, there's room to add a few things. With the good, there is some bad. These latches feel just a little flimsy. So you have to treat them with care, kind of give them a little bit of push down, so that way they latch nice. The other thing I've found is that if you don't get them lined up, you can see there's already a couple of stress marks on the plastic there where I didn't have it lined up to get that snapped into place. But all things considered, it does come apart pretty nice to be able to get to the 3/8 socket set. Now I do have, it came with the Allen wrenches in there. I did add some extensions. So far, I like the 6-point sockets. It's nice when I'm taking this out in the middle of the field to work on tractors that may have rounded corners on the hardware. The 6-point has saved my butt more than once. So other downfalls of mobile tool storage in general is when you need something in the bottom, you have to take everything off the top to get to it. Now, that's just one of those things you have to accept if you're going to use the mobile tool storage stuff. On the whole, it is pretty good. The wheels are solid. My next gripe is the handle is a little wiggly feeling, but there again, it is only plastic. It's not the most amazing thing in the whole wide world, and this is pretty true of all of them. All the handles are a little wiggly feeling. They just don't inspire confidence. Now, let's get back to taking everything apart. I've got some heavy stuff in the bottom, a couple of hammers, pry bars. Yes, I pack my mobile stuff heavy because I'm the guy that'll pack the kitchen sink if you let me, but I like to have all the right tools with me all the time. So The biggest issue is it's kind of heavy the way I have it loaded up. But I've got everything I need, from impact bits, drill bits, my sockets, screwdrivers, pliers. We'll get to this one in a minute. That one's still kind of fun. My SAE and metric. I work more SAE stuff, so my SAE drawer is far more loaded down than my metric drawer. In the bottom has got all the hammers, pry bars, zip ties, things that I don't necessarily use all the time, but are really nice to have. So now let's go to my second favorite part of this toolbox. My first favorite, my SAE drawer, because let's face it, I work on classic American cars, I work on tractors, pretty much everything's SAE. My second favorite part of this is actually this one. This is kind of unique. I've talked about it before, and I've kind of reorganized it since. I've got my voltmeter, a couple extra test leads, because I do a fair bit of electrical diagnostic stuff too. Now, when I'm not doing electrical stuff, these just come out because they're nice and easy in a case, and I've got a work spot, which can house screws, nuts, bolts, you name it, things that are going with me to wherever I'm going. And these things, if I'm taking things apart, I can just throw the parts in here and know that once they're filled up, I can just, on reassembly, just start going backwards. Everything stays organized. Everything stays the way I need it. I really like this for that purpose. And plus, when without the voltmeter, if you're dealing with something, that you need to reassemble, disassemble, reassemble, you've got a spot right here, and stuff isn't going to leave that area. I mean, sometimes when you're out doing things, you need to disassemble things and put it back together and not lose parts in the dirt, the weeds, you name it. I like this for that. I know that someone's going to ask, why do you have so many tools in that thing? Why don't you just get a normal, metal toolbox? Because this isn't my normal shop. Because this is the one I tend to work in all the time. This isn't my home shop. Keep that in mind. The mobile stuff works great for that and be able to move it around. Is the Tradestack good? I think it does pretty good for what I want it to do. I didn't spend, considerably huge money to do it. It's been solid, aside from those couple of latch and drawer issues, which I can work around. I just acknowledge they're there and know that when I'm putting this thing back together, I do have to be a little bit careful and make sure that it gets latched in there. Otherwise, things go everywhere. Don't ask me how I know. But all things considered, I think the Craftsman Tradestack does pretty good for what I use it for. I'm going everywhere, building, sheds, working on tractors, working on classic stuff. I'm able to bring it up right next to the car so that way I can have everything I need, reasonably within reach. I mean, my most common items are in the drawers, so that way I'm able to get to them quickly and effectively. Yeah, there's a couple of things that this doesn't have, but that's okay. I don't expect to be able to have every tool I ever need ever in this. It does good for what I use it for. I'm happy with it, though it does have some drawbacks. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll check you later.